Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 million by 1 million strategy roundtable for entrepreneurs. 1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator in the world. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue. And in support of that mission, we do these roundtables, these free mentoring roundtables, week after week after week. It's been a phenomenal experience of doing these for so long. Maureen, could you go to the next slide, please? We started back in 2008, and that was just as an experiment. We were launching my first book, and we decided that we were going to try this online mentoring thing as a part of kind of side programming, and that then became one of the anchor pieces of 1 million by 1 million. So this is now the 422nd 1 million by 1 million roundtable. We have had over 100,000 people participate in these sessions from all over the world, and we've learned a lot. You know, the entrepreneurs have learned a lot, we have learned a lot, and it's been a really eye-opening experience of how much is going on in different parts of the world and how different regions are coming up. If you've been in these sessions recently, we've even had people pitching, entrepreneurs pitching from Ghana. So geographies that we certainly don't market to, but people are finding us and coming over. So next slide, please. This event is being recorded. Next slide. Maureen, just keep advancing the slides. Don't wait for me to have to constantly tell you next slide. These are the call-in instructions. This is a roundtable, not a broadcast, so you're going to need to ask questions, engage. We want you to be part of the roundtable. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to know you, so introduce yourselves. Tell us where you're joining from, what you're calling about, and so on and so forth. The roundtable is being recorded. Recordings are going to be available in the public chats, in the YouTube channel, and also on our blog. So every single recording of every single roundtable we've done to this day is available on our YouTube channel. It's a tremendous body of learning material. You will have a chance to use that anytime you want to. And today's programming includes, first, a conversation with Nihal Mehta, General Partner of ENIAC Ventures, followed by entrepreneur pitches. So I will give you more details on the entrepreneur pitches in a bit, but let's begin with Nihal. Welcome, Nihal, to the program.
Thanks for having me.
So Nihal, let's get you acquainted with our audience. Tell us about yourself, about ENIAC Ventures. Give us a little bit of context.
Sure. So I've been an entrepreneur my whole career. I started in 1998, so 20 years ago, actually, while in college. And since then, I've started five startups, invested in almost 200, of which about 2/3 or close to that are through our venture fund that we started about 9 years ago called ENIAC Ventures. The startups that I founded and ran were mostly in the mobile software space, mobile marketing and mobile advertising, selling into the Fortune 1000, so large brands, and a number of them were acquired, a number of them failed. Obviously, you learn the most from the failures. We say as investors now, we have a lot of scar tissue and muscle memory that makes us more empathetic, to founders, as we're founders ourselves. And for better or worse, we still feel like we're founders when we invest in a company. So we tell our founders that, you now have a co-founder without the title and the equity, but we're going to do whatever it takes to make your business a success.
So tell us a bit about ENIAC Ventures. What is the investing focus? Where do you operate out of? How big is the fund? What size checks do you like to write?
Yep. So we're operating out of our fourth fund. We're about a third of the way through it. It's a $100 million fund that we announced last March or last April 2017. We started, I mentioned a lot of companies I founded were in the mobile software space. I actually met my three partners as engineers in undergrad at the University of Pennsylvania over 20 years ago. And they all had similar experiences founding and operating companies also in the mobile software space. And so the focus of the first funds were in and around mobile. So historically, about half of our portfolio is enterprise, half is consumer. But post iPhone, Android, even pre, we thought the largest opportunities, and we were right, were in and around mobile. Now, with Fund 4, we're very deliberate about expanding the strategy. The mobile internet is now the internet, and mobile is completely ubiquitous. And so, while a lot of the companies we do invest in have mobile components or mobile only, we're looking more broadly. And, I think we're very focused on stage. So we're seed stage. We're the round before the Series A. Our job is to write $1 million to $1.5 million check and really help the company get to a great Series A. We have, according to many third-party publications, one of the best records in getting companies from seed to A in the shortest time with the best A investors, and so we're very proud of that. That goes, I think, into us acting like a co-founder of our investments. So we're
Can
very
you double-click down for me, Nihal, to the point about seed? What is your definition of seed? What needs to be in the venture for you to qualify, for this to qualify as a seed investment per your judgment?
Yeah, that's a great question. Typically the team has been built out and there's a product prototype. There's some usage on the product. So if it's a B2B product, there's revenue, some revenue, not a lot, just some. We want to make sure there's revenue flowing through the pipes. And if it's a consumer product, then, there's some user data. And I think that's really important for us because we want to definitely reference customers, when we do diligence and, the product is far along that there are customers on the product. Now, it's definitely pre-product market fit. So, the product is not flying off the shelves by itself. And the founders are still pivoting and tweaking and iterating on the product to make it stick. And so that's our job, is to really get it through product market fit and raise the Series A. But at the stage that we invest in, the team has been built out, the prototype is there, and the founders need capital to just accelerate their iteration of the product. Typically these rounds are $2 to $3 million now. This would have been called a Series A 5-6 years ago. Now it's seed. And there's actually a whole cohort of capital right before us called pre-seed. And that's kind of when we started investing, those were those rounds, the first kind of $250 to $1 million. So entrepreneurs are raising pre-seed now from angels, friends, and family, pre-seed funds. And typically that's helping them build a team, helping them build a prototype. And once they have that and they have some customer traction, they'll go and raise the seed, which is that $2 to $3 million round that we like to lead.
So, Nihal, I will tell you this, that in all the conversations that we've had, and we've had hundreds of investor conversations, the terminology is even more segmented, and the progression is friends and family, pre-seed, seed, post-seed, pre-Series A, Series A, and based on what you're describing, you're more in the pre-Series A kind of ballpark than seed.
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously the nomenclature is a little subjective and it also changes kind of every month. But, in general, we are, we're the first institutional round, the round before the Series A.
So you mentioned about B2B, you're looking for revenues. Are you also looking for revenues in B2C? How do you mark the stage in B2C?
Yeah, typically the consumer businesses we're investing in have no revenue at the seed stage. How we analyze them and how we do diligence on them and how we ultimately invest in consumer companies are dictated by things like user engagement. We want to make sure that consumers are coming back. There's some semblance of a viral coefficient that consumers are inviting other users are inviting other users. That's starting to happen. That there's some uniqueness to the product that can't be found elsewhere. So, definitely look at consumer businesses through a different lens. Of course, there needs to be, at the end of the day, a business model to monetize the business. Typically consumer businesses are monetized by subscription or by advertising or by virtual goods, but we don't need to see actual revenue. We just need to, see a plan and a vision that eventually they will monetize. But, at seed stage, consumers, it's very, it's a lot of it's a gut instinct in terms of obviously founding and creating, but investing in. It's just very early without a lot of data points, to your point.
Right. Yeah, and it's difficult to convince investors that it's going to monetize at some point because there are so many unknowns that is in a seed stage from B2C venture. We see entrepreneurs struggling with that. I think B2B is easier at some level.
Yeah, I think it goes in waves. I think looking at the past 2 years, like 2017 and 2018, the majority of our investments were definitely enterprise, B2B. Yeah. We think there's more opportunities today in enterprise. I mean, another point to make is, the big incumbents, Google, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, are executing extremely well. They're retaining
very, very well.
They're retaining.
It's definitely the age of the incumbents these days on the B2C side.
Well, yeah, for consumer. And so for that reason, actually consumer-focused venture funds are actually going down in size because they realize that, gone are the days of the Instagram, WhatsApp, YouTube, billion-plus acquisitions because, Google, Facebook are retaining the best engineers. They'll just, try to build it, if not buy it, before it gets big enough. And so the return profile of these startups go down, and so you have to have a smaller fund size to actually return your fund. And so I think on the enterprise side, there's just so many more opportunities. You have
enterprise very
on the SaaS side, you're Salesforce, SAP, Oracle, Adobe, all competing for the MarTech stack or the CRM stack. And there's still huge gaps where entrepreneurs can grow very, very quickly. So, yeah, we're excited. We've done a lot of enterprise. But, that being said, I mean, you probably saw the stat on Facebook recently, 40% of millennials have removed Facebook from their phone. And, Snapchat is not doing well either. I think there's a real opportunity for, very large breakout consumer unicorns over the next few years. And so, we're definitely keeping our eyes peeled there as well.
Yeah. Now, what is the geographical focus of your funds?
Yeah, so we are geography agnostic. Our headquarters is San Francisco, but we have a large office in New York as well. So we're bi-coastal, but we invest anywhere in North America. Our networks are in North America, so that's where we can help accelerate companies. How it breaks down over the past fund is about a quarter Bay Area, about a quarter New York City, about a quarter Boston, and then about a quarter other. And other, we're seeing markets like LA, Salt Lake City, Austin, Vancouver, Seattle, all over the country. And so, I think that 25% is probably going to grow faster than the others. But it's pretty broadly, spread out across the country. It's getting more and more broad.
So let's talk about some of the highlights of your portfolio. And what I like to do is to give our audience a bit of an insight into how you think about investments. So talk about some of the case studies and give us some feel for why it attracted you. What was it? What was in the venture? What were they doing that really attracted you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we were lucky very early to actually a great team, a great full stack engineering founding team. One of our very first investments ended up selling almost 10 years ago to Air Bed and Breakfast, now Airbnb. So we were lucky to be a shareholder by virtue of that acquisition. But I think one thing that's reflective about that company is the team I mentioned is full stack. So the founding team could actually build and ship product by themselves. And I think that's one thing that we definitely look at within the founders is that there's a technical co-founder and a business co-founder typically. So there's more than one founder. They can actually build and ship product by themselves. Ultimately they'll raise capital and they'll hire people better than them. But in the beginning, it's really important for them to build and ship and iterate very quickly by themselves. We like multiple co-founders. Building a startup is very, very hard. We know it firsthand. Many people listening to this feel the pain every day. And so having somebody, to bounce ideas off of, to give a hug to get a hug from, that's incredibly important during this journey. And so we like, more than one founder. We like that they're technical. We also like that if they've actually done this before together, and either tasted a little bit of success before together or even failed before together because they've been through the peaks and valleys of entrepreneurship together, and they still want to work and they still want to work together. And so we've kind of de-risked that a little bit. The number one killer of startups at early stage is founder infighting. And so if you can, de-risk that by, looking for working history, and especially when times are tough, then that's what we prefer. Another case study based on all of those things that I just said is a company called Boxed, B-O-X-E-D. The founding team actually sold a company called Astro Ape to Zynga and left Zynga to start Boxed. We led the seed investment in 2012. So 6 years ago, they just announced they raised a $110 million round, and they're growing very quickly. They are essentially like a Sam's Club or a Costco, a bulk goods, direct-to-consumer e-commerce company without the membership fees. So you can buy your paper towels, your toilet paper, and if you don't, then you should from Box. And the team was full stack. They did it before. They had a small taste of success. They wanted to go bigger. And so that kind of checks those boxes, right? Multiple founders, full stack. They can build and ship between the founding team. They've done it before together. Of course, what they're building, Box, is very different than Astro Ape, although they're using a lot of the same game mechanics that they learned at Zynga. But it doesn't matter. It's 90% about team at our stage. And so I think that's what we look for. So that, those are a couple examples. We have many, many incredible companies that have very similar profiles. Happy to talk about more.
Based on what you said, I want to provide some commentary to our audience about the team issue, just based on what I heard you say. So you're hearing Nihal talk about multiple co-founders, and he's talking about a full stack team. So the team needs to be completely built out before they're willing to fund this company in the seed stage. Now, those two are kind of mutually dependent. You can only have a full stack team if you have multiple co-founders, because if you have to hire people and build out a team, you cannot get. At that stage, with that little resource in terms of capital, you can't complete a team by hiring people. So that's just something to note that, certain investors, Nihal is representative of that investor class, would only invest in full stack teams at the seed stage, and the only way to get to that is with multiple co-founders.
Yeah, there's one, other addition I just add to that, which is, in many cases, you still have solo founders, right? But they are technical, so they can build and ship the product themselves.
Yes.
And they have some business acumen, but they're definitely technical. So, in those situations, if you can build and ship, if you can code, or you're technical, if you're building a robotics company and you're a roboticist, then that's okay. You can hire business people around you after you raise money. But you yourself are full stack, essentially. So you could have a solo founder that's full stack as well.
Okay, that's actually very good elaboration. So we get this question a lot, is like, are solo founders fundable? And I think generally investors prefer not to fund solo founders, except in the case that you're talking about, where the solo founder can build businesses by himself or herself, and then you can flesh out the team after funding.
Yeah, I think the dependencies are key, right? Like, yeah, to your point, as long as they can do it by themselves. If they have to outsource to an agency to build the product, if they have to outsource to any other dependency at that early stage, it's much harder to get off the ground. You want founders to eat, sleep, breathe their business and be able to ship on the weekends, late at night.
It depends on what is the product, right? If you're talking about e-commerce, for example,
yep.
E-commerce, you can outsource to any number of outsourcing agencies for the core platform, and then it depends on really what is it that you're selling, what is the product, especially if it's a unique product and it's a merchandising-based venture, and the founder's core competency is merchandising, which was the case with the founder of Nasty Gal. They ended up mucking up that whole story, but she was doing very well on her own.
Yep.
So let's talk about what you are seeing in your deal flow right now. And I'm trying to get to what are the trends in the market right now. And from your vantage point, I'm sure you see thousands of deals per year. What strikes you? What's popping out as trends?
Sure. So, we see about 500 to 600 deals a month that come into the partnership. We end up, by the way, investing in about one per month is our pace. So the funnel gets narrow pretty quickly. These days, I'd say about a quarter of our portfolio is something we call hard tech. So, we've done we have a software for autonomous private aircraft. Autopilot hasn't been upgraded in decades, and so this is the next version of that for eventually autonomous transport in the air. We have an AV company as well for cars that helps predict objects in front of the cars so that they can avoid them and they can be able to move around in a safe matrix. We have also autonomous software that powers autonomous cargo ships. So we say we have like a land, sea, and air autonomous strategy, both software and hardware, and that's kind of hard tech. We're seeing a lot more of those robotics companies, and so that's one area. Also leveraging a similar theme in general automation. We're seeing a lot of software SaaS that's working on automating the enterprise. We have one company that's not announced yet. It's in a category that's probably one of the hottest in enterprise SaaS, the RPA space, robotic process automation. And RPA essentially enables any enterprise, Fortune 1000, for example, to automate, a bulk of their manual labor. So data entry, pulling data from disparate systems. Traditionally, these jobs were outsourced through BPO to India or what have you. Now you have software that uses computer vision that literally watches what employees are doing and then automates those processes. Actually, the fastest growing enterprise company in the world is in this category, a company called UiPath. That just announced a raise from Sequoia, $3 billion, but in 2 years, they're already at a multi-$100 million run rate. And so that's in that category, robotic process automation. And I think the two things I just spoke about, kind of robots in hardware and in software, again, playing to that general trend of automation. We're also seeing a lot in fintech and insurance. I think there's a lot of disruption happening with traditional B2C banks and the way that millennials, spend money, save money. And so they need new interfaces and new user experiences than just the traditional banks. Also, all the infrastructure behind banking and insurance companies are being disrupted because they're incredibly inefficient. And so we're seeing a lot of B2B companies, also playing in the fintech space. We say we like unsexy industries. I'm looking right now at a construction company that's doing storing construction history on the blockchain. And I know there's a lot of buzzwords, and when people say, "Oh yeah, we're using blockchain," more than not, you can say you probably don't need to use blockchain for this. But there are some really interesting native use cases of blockchain that we're excited to learn about and invest in. And so, those are just kind of very top of mind. This is deal flow from this week that we're excited
very
about.
Very interesting. I'm actually it's something that has come up in some of the talks that I've given recently about this whole automation thing, right? India's development to a very large extent depended on this massive BPO industry, and I think that's going to go away in the next decade or two.
Yeah, I think in general, any human commoditized action is being replaced by machines, and I think for the next few decades, AI is augmented intelligence. So it's actually working, pairing with humans to make our jobs a lot easier before it potentially disrupts industries. And people thought the Industrial Revolution would eliminate categories of jobs. It in fact created brand new jobs and ended up increasing the total number of jobs. And so I think there's an argument around AI and automation. Are we looking at mass disruption? Are we looking at augmentation? I think it's going to be augmentation before disruption, but it's a theme you can apply to anything. When you walk down the street.
Yes, that's a much longer discussion, but I'll just kind of say my assessment is that this is going to be a massive disruption in the long run, and it's going to be a species-level disruption. So, folks, those of you who are interested in this topic, you can go to the blog, the 1M1M blog, and read Man and Superman, and we're having lots of discussions on this topic on that series. Feel free to discuss. Feel free to, if you have guest posts that you want to contribute on this topic, you're very welcome to do that. Nihal, I have one last question for you before you run off. Is about unicorns. Are you chasing unicorns? What is your assessment of the dynamics of the investment climate right now? Because as you said, you like unsexy industries, and the truth is there are lots of opportunities to build great businesses in some of these unsexy industries by being capital efficient, and you can still build good sizable businesses with less money and sell them for smaller exits, but that's a different type of venture investing.
Yeah, I think, for us, we invest in about 40 companies in every fund, and every investment needs to have the potential to reach $1 billion market cap. So it needs to reach a unicorn threshold. to have the potential to reach that, to be able to return the funds. So, every investment that we make, we like to think that it has potential to become a unicorn. Now, that being said, of 40 companies, probably only 3 to 5 will get there, and the vast majority, 35, will not. But that's how these funds typically are constructed.
Yeah. Well, it's a traditional venture capital model. No.
Exactly. I say also when entrepreneurs shoot for the stars, they often land on the moon. And so you want to make the trajectory. You want to invest in companies that have this massively ambitious trajectory, because obviously things change, things twist and turn, things pivot. But if they're that ambitious and if they have that much acceleration coming off the start, then they're probably going to end up in a decent place, even if they fail. So that's
not necessarily. There's a difference between ambition and recklessness, and we have a series on the blog Dead by Overfunding, and that is also a phenomenon.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true, and we've had our share of those as well. But yeah, we're definitely unicorn hunting with every investment. To your question.
Fantastic. Well, great conversation, Nihal. Thank you for coming, and we'll catch up later.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Maureen, if you could go to the next slide, please. We will start the entrepreneurship session, the mentoring session. We want to set some expectations before you do your pitches. First and foremost, we want you to succeed, and we are on your side. This is a safe working session. You don't need to be nervous. Don't need to be defensive. You can candidly discuss where you are, what you're looking for, what you're getting stuck on, and we'll try to help you remove those obstacles and, come up with creative ways that we have seen entrepreneurs in the past have dealt with the kinds of challenges you're dealing with. Now, in that process, next slide, please. In that process, you will find that you may disagree with the feedback that you get today because, obviously, you are getting feedback from a different level of experience than yours, most likely. So there will be things that you haven't thought through, that you haven't thought about. So all we suggest you do is take the feedback and think about it. And then it's your venture. You will decide how you want to move forward and so forth. But you do, owe it to yourself to consider the feedback that you get. One thing you have to acknowledge is that not all businesses can raise money. Raising money doesn't guarantee success. Not all businesses should raise money. So what you just heard from Nihal is that they only invest in companies that have a certain set of characteristics. He talked about full-stack founders, whether it's a solo full-stack founder or a founding team of, all the characteristics, all the qualities that they're looking for in the team. That is a requirement. The second thing he's talking about is a requirement is that they're chasing unicorns. So you have to show in your venture unicorn potential. That is not, by the way, the requirement for 1Mby1M. We are happy to work with you even if you don't fit those profiles. We work with solo founders. We work with, smaller TAM, total available market opportunities, and so on and so forth. But you have to build those businesses differently. There are different types of investors. There are different types of financing models. And there's a lot of bootstrapping that goes on in building those businesses. And you have to understand what is the business that you're building, what are the characteristics of that business, and make your funding decisions accordingly. All right, with that caveat, we're going to go to the first pitch. Benjamin Cvetkovich is our first presenter from Loveland, Colorado. Benjamin, please unmute your line and tell us what you're doing.
Hi there. How are you this morning?
Good.
Can you guys hear me? Yes, good.
Yes.
Okay. So I found your presentation very, very interesting, especially in light of what we are doing. We are in the financial services space. I'm the president and CEO of a company called World Xchange, and our purpose, if you will, our goal and our mission is to change the way that payment processing, meaning digital payments, are done globally. If you go to the next screen, the benchmark of what we are doing is we have developed a ability to guarantee that there can be no fraud of any type in digital transactions that are processed on our payment solution. The reason we've been able to do that, if you'll go to the next screen, is because we have evaluated the payment card industry, and myself, I've been in the industry for 8 years. Before that, I was in the securities part, and I can talk about my resume another time. But one of the things that we evaluated in the credit card industry, as you look at this particular screen, is that at every touch point of a transaction, there is risk of fraud, even to the point of carrying a credit card in your wallet or in your purse. If the credit card has a mag strip, that information can be captured remotely. If you hand your credit card to an individual to swipe it or process it on their terminal, in some cases, there have been recorded stories of people taking a picture of the credit card, compromising you because they simply touched it. But the single greatest risk that exists out there in all credit card transactions is the Internet. The reason that exists as the single greatest risk is because all transactions wind up being processed somehow through the Internet these days. And if you'll go to the next screen, what the current processing model does that is out there is it takes your card information, your data, we call that the pearl, and it tries to transmit it from point A to point B in what we call an oyster. And that oyster is a way to either mask or conceal or somehow replace your card data with tokens that represent your card data. The problem that exists in the industry is you're still transmitting the data. And so the criminals who are out there on the Internet, they have a completely wide open area from your device until that information reaches the processor directly on their servers, where there's absolutely no security. So what everyone is relying on is the oyster that is protecting your data. They try to harden it with encryption. They try to make sure you can't pry it open with tokenization, but it's still there. And so what people do is they capture that data, and then they start playing with it, trying to go ahead and breach it. As a result, you may hear that there was a breach of 10 million card numbers at a particular company. Your card wasn't impacted. Suddenly, a year and a half later, oh my gosh, my card was compromised. What happened? Well, it might have taken them a year and a half, but they accessed your data.
Yeah.
Our system is a system that does not transmit any sensitive information about you or the merchant. We have developed a patent-pending process that allows us to complete digital transactions. Yes, we're using an oyster, but there's no data inside for them to capture. So once they do break it, once they do crack it, what do they get? They get nothing. Because we're not using encryption, we're not using tokenization, we are not transmitting your sensitive data in any way, shape, or form. Next slide, please. Yeah, there we go. Some parts of the world have switched to what they call QR codes, which is where the merchant goes ahead and generates transaction information that is then captured by the mobile device. Those have also met with a considerable amount of fraud because in those cases, they're not transmitting information from the consumer, they're transmitting information from the merchant. Next slide, please. What we have done is we have created a closed system where both the merchant and the consumer have to be registered on our system. Now, when I say that, do not think that we are saying they have to process transactions with us. They don't. We have created a solution that is interoperable, meaning anybody in the world can use it, And it is processor agnostic, meaning you can keep your processing relationship with whomever it is that you're working with. However, if the merchant and the consumer are pre-registered with us, all we have to do in any transaction is simply confirm your identity, and that's where our technology comes in. Once we confirm your identity, because you are registered, we already have all of the information we need to facilitate the transaction, and it doesn't matter who the merchant is working with, and it doesn't matter where you shop as an individual. Next slide, please. In addition to that, we have a variety of different powerful sales tools that can accompany it. But let me explain one item in a little bit greater detail, and that is that when a consumer is registered on our system, their credit card information is removed from any internet access. Our servers have it removed from any access to the open, to daylight. And as a result, they can't even come in to breach our system to be able to capture the card data. The only place that they can go is to the banks themselves. So we've eliminated all of the touch points where your data is present. Why do we talk about these kinds of special benefits that go along with our system? Because recently it was also announced that many hackers are going into the gift card space to be able to steal money and steal funds from consumers as well as merchants. Our system can handle any form of legal tender payment. Any currency, we can handle any gift cards, we can handle loyalty programs, we can handle any means of transferring credit from one individual or business to another. Next slide, please. Our system works in the exact same way, whether it's e-commerce, whether it is a telephone order. So if you're ordering a pizza, as an example, you find yourself in a position where they ask for your phone number, then they ask you for what you want to order, and now how are you going to pay for it? If you tell them by credit card, guess what you're doing? You're reading them the card number, the expiration date, and the CVV code. Now, the phone may be secure, but let's hope that the employee hasn't written it down somewhere and accidentally or on purpose discarded it without paying any attention to the fact that it's sensitive information. And oh, by the way, how about people who are close to you who can hear you reading the card number, or others on the other end who might be able to see what is transpiring and capture that information? We can work with bill pay for utilities, for governments. We can work with face-to-face transactions. It doesn't matter what the platform is. Our solution will work on all of them with equal effectiveness. Next screen, please. The last item that I'll share with you before I talk about what our goal is in this particular session is that you'll notice we have World Xchange, then we have World Xpay, and we have World Xcard. There are other business units that we have on the drawing board that we're going to add to it. World Xpay is a payment solution. It is processor agnostic. It is what I've been talking about in this presentation. World Xcard, because of our platform, we have the ability to go out and work with banks, especially smaller banks that don't have the money and resources to pay the fees for Visa and MasterCard, for them to be able to issue their own cards in a virtual environment, because our platform is a virtual platform. You don't need your credit card present. We also have on the drawing board World X Bank, World X Bank International, and other items that move along in the same direction, because we, as World Xchange, are changing the way that digital payments and financial services are provided worldwide. Any questions?
Yeah, lots. What are your thoughts about how this goes to market?
One of the companies that I am the president of is a payment processing company. So right now, we are working on becoming certified with some of the primary payment networks, and there are only 6 of them in the U.S. and very few in the world. Those are TSYS, Elavon, First Data, Global Pay, World Pay, and Chase Payment Tech. Those are the rails that everyone uses in North America. And so we are in the process of getting certified with them. After we are certified with them, we will attend various different trade shows, inviting professionals within the industry to see our solution and to license it and embrace it for themselves. But we will also go after the lowest hanging fruit.
Who is the most desirable licenser for? So I'll tell you what, your presentation from a technical point of view is very interesting. The problems you're describing are absolutely correct. There's no question that we're operating in a highly insecure world, and we have lots of data transfer going on, which is why we see so many breaches. All this is absolutely correct. But to bring a system like what you're talking about, at the scale of what you're talking about, for the world to adopt, you need a very astute business plan and a go-to-market strategy, and I haven't heard anything about that. Now, this is a very big topic. I don't have the time to work on this with you beyond asking you that question, basically. And I don't get the sense that you have thought about it sufficiently. So if you were to even think about taking an idea like this out there to market, you're going to need to have a strategy. And that strategy, go-to-market strategy, a business strategy, and that strategy is missing from what I can tell, what I can assess.
The reason that it's missing is because we don't have the time to go into detail regarding it. To answer your question in short, we're going after the e-commerce space because we can offer merchants the ability to avoid all security and to have extremely short PCI, which is Payment Card Industry certification requirements. We have already gotten approval from 2 different PCI companies for that. We are also going to simultaneously go to government entities who provide online billing and things of that nature where they are experiencing the greatest amount of fraud. By being able to save their reputations, giving them a fraud-free solution, in exchange, they will be making an effort through their emails to push information to their consumers to use our payment solution so that they can go ahead and process in a fraud-free environment. 2 of our clients this year have been breached. We're a small company that does payment processing, and 2 of the clients that were breached were government entities. There are other elements to the go-to-market plan, but it is a little bit more involved because we've already done a lot of research and background work to get it ready so that it's an appealing package to businesses as well as consumers.
Okay, great. Excellent. So what you presented is very interesting, very, very interesting, and it's the very big idea trying to solve a very big problem. So great. I hope you move forward successfully, and if you need help, we'll be happy to help you.
Well, we do need help. We're trying to raise some capital, which is one of the reasons why we're here. But, the interview was very, very interesting as well.
So hold on. I will explain. There are 2 other people who are going to present, and then I will explain a little bit of how to use the platform for help.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Maureen, can we go to the next presenter? Jeff Gentile. Jeff, you are up next.
Excellent. Thank you so much. My name is Jeff Gentile. I'm the CEO and founder of Grollow here in Greenville, South Carolina in the United States. As you can see there, the website is actually being built currently right now as we are in the wireframing phase. Next slide, please. As you can see, so Grollow is going to be the first group texting app that allows for followers. There are a lot of different group texting apps that are out there right now, but there is really nothing that is out there that allows a group text to be followed. Hence Grollow, group follow, group follow. So kind of like Nihal was talking about with that lack of interest in the millennials, with Facebook and Instagram, well, maybe not so much Instagram, but Snapchat, where some of them are starting to die off a little bit. And as it says here, you could even think like Twitter. Think Twitter, only better, where the group text, again, can be followed. The unique piece to it that is that we're going to be first to market. We're going to be bringing something and changing a paradigm to the actual social media industry. So that's where this is, and I'll get into how this came about a little bit, but that's really what the premise is. So it's taking social media from a singular standpoint into a group format. So it's taking that group texting that we all have into a different fashion. Next slide, please. And if you take a look at the segmentation and the market analysis, I've done a lot of research as to, as you had mentioned earlier, Sermana, is the TAM. There's 5 billion people across the world between the ages of 15 and 65. So that is the primary market for people that are using social media. Of that, 3 billion people are predicted to use social media here in 2018. And as you can see with the note on passive networking, really what that basically talks about is that people love to share and people love to be a part of something that is remarkable, something that is worthy of being remarked on. And when they see something that is worthy of that, they like to have their friends and family and people involved in that. That's why sometimes everybody takes pictures. Obviously, that's why Instagram has been so big. People like to share things that are important to them, even when it comes to following somebody or something like the Kardashians, where they obviously have as many followers as they do because people all want to try to be them for a day. So the cool part to Grollow is the people that are following the group text cannot interrupt the group text, but they can talk amongst themselves. So they can all share. So you can have all your friends, family, even strangers, anybody that follows that group talking to each other, but you cannot interrupt that group so that group can operate autonomously to themselves. Next slide, please. So to start off, though, as far as a go-to-market strategy, I had a chicken and the egg scenario going on between the group texts and the followers and how to really come to that. And what I started doing is going to some of the churches here in South Carolina and the mega churches. And here in the United States, there's a lot of different mega churches, and they've got massive congregations. And the pastors were all very excited about the opportunity to deliver their messages in a rhetorical fashion to their congregation, where they are just looking to deliver a message, where they're not looking for feedback. You know, Twitter, everybody has an opportunity to shout back at you, but this is an opportunity for people in a group setting to be able to get a message out. It also works for, as you can see there, schools, teachers, coaches, corporations can use it to get messages out to employees. And then, of course, as all social media platforms have, true money will come through advertising. So there's going to be a 3 to 4 pronged approach with advertising and how that's going to come in. And through some personal relationships, I've already started having conversations with, as you can see here, Heineken, Under Armour, MTV, and BMW. And they have all shown interest, obviously very, very early on. They said, come back to us, but it is something that is very interesting to us and something that we would then discuss and like to hear a pitch on how that would happen, on how we would be able to the bigger audience. And obviously what that would be revolved around the people that endorse their products. So the people that would endorse their products would then go to Grollow to create these group texts and then organically talk about the products that they're using, the products that they're interested in. And then obviously you'd have their fans following them and then running out as they do, which is why the products are endorsed, and then obviously hoping to support those. So and then you can see that just a little bit in there, I put a note in there about the social media, the digital advertising pieces that are in there, the video, social media pieces, PR campaigns as well. So what I'm developing right now in the wireframe phase is a 30-second video that I'll be able to have. I'm developing relationships with bloggers, people that talk about new, interesting social media outlets that are out there, to be able to build a campaign, PR campaign around it as well. And then once the website is launched, it's going to have that video on there, and it's also going to have the pre-launch registrations there as well. Next slide, please. So having a marketing background as I do, so I've got the marketing and business side nailed down. That's something I've done for 25 years now in my professional career, talking to many different people about it. Every time that I speak to them about it and everybody starts to understand and grasp it, everybody thinks that it's going to be a success. And as you can see here, the proofs of concept have been out there as well. I was listening to a sports talk radio show, or multiple ones, and numerous times the host would ask one of the athletes about their team's group text. And they're always having an interesting story, something going on. And each time the host says, please just add me to your group text. I promise I will never say anything. I just want to sit and just listen to the things that you talk about. I heard Ryan Seacrest do the same thing. And again, back to the Kardashians, you can only imagine if the Kardashians had a group text, how many people would want to know what they're talking about. So where we are right now, we're in pre-revenue. Again, we're just in the wireframing phase. Getting through that, just working through my friends and family round right now, starting to talk to some angel investors. So again, as we had talked earlier, Nihal was talking about, I would consider us in the pre-seed stage, as we are raising right now with friends and family $50,000, and the angel investors that I've started talking to are talking $50,000 to $150,000, $200,000, and so that is all just beginning. So I would put us into the pre-seed category, and once again, I would take a look at it and think, as to what Nihal said, that we could be that social consumer unicorn that they are looking for. Next slide, please.
So I'm going to give you a bit of feedback already.
Oh, which would be great. Yep, I was just saying the challenges and questions, please. Yes, and so that's why they're
down on the go through your challenges and questions, and then I'll give you the feedback.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Yeah, and I didn't know if you had a chance to preview these or not, but so my location obviously is one thing that is an issue here, being in Greenville, South Carolina, in a smaller market. There obviously are investors here. There's a couple different southern angel investment groups, but the sector that I am in is very foreign to them. So I've been just reaching out through phone calls, emails, virtual meetings such as this, just trying to set up as many conversations with angel investors as possible, moving to the next stage. Should I be looking for a certain profile with an investor? The next question,
so
the third question.
I think I know what your issues are. In the interest of time, let me give you the feedback.
Perfect.
So that, I have to work with one other presenter. So, location may be an issue, but the real issue is stage. You're not even pre-seed. You are friends and family. You're pre-seed. That is a very tricky stage. So if you're a pre-stage company and you go try to hit up angel investors, you're not going to get anywhere, because angel investors, only those investors who operate in the pre-seed kind of stage would be interested in engaging with you, and that's very few. This is a classic friends and family type of situation. So I would encourage you to not waste your time doing this. It's not going to work. So what profile of investors should you be looking for? The only investors that you could get traction from right now are people who know you, and that's friends and family. Now, the next question that you were asking about hire is that it will be very difficult without any funding for you to hire a CTO. So the only kind of, and you're not a technical founder yourself, so how does this team become, as Nihal was talking about, full stack team? The only way that might happen is if you can find a co-founder who is a technical co-founder. So yes, a CTO should be your first hire, but it's not going to be a hire because you will not be able to hire a CTO. You're going to have to work with someone who works with you as a co-founder. And that, I actually don't believe in getting random co-founders. I believe that you have to work with somebody before to want to do a company with that person, because it's a very high stress situation and ruins relationships left, right, and center if you're not doing it with the right person. So those are, you have to have prior working relationship and prior knowledge of the person and huge amount of trust. So persistency is not the way to raise money. The way to raise money is following the right strategy. So I would recommend that you actually study and learn what is involved in raising money. What do investors look for? It sounds like your level of knowledge on financing is very, beginner level knowledge. And that's one of the things we do. And I'll explain later on in the program how to plug those knowledge gaps. There's nothing wrong with knowledge gaps, right? A first-time entrepreneur's journey is full of knowledge gaps. It's all knowledge gaps. And it's a very steep learning curve. And that's why we are doing 1 million by 1 million, so that you can plug that knowledge gap efficiently and reliably. So, in this case, you're going to have to somehow figure out how to bootstrap to a certain degree of traction before any investor will touch this. So really, your biggest need at the moment is to learn bootstrapping.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a whole lot of feedback on your actual, the problem that you're trying to solve. We don't have a lot of time, but I'll give you some ideas that you may want to think about. So this thing you're talking about, group chat and asking people, letting people follow a group chat, just because a journalist wants to follow a team's group chat doesn't mean a team wants a journalist to follow their group's chat. I mean, I'll tell you, I have a bunch of secret groups. These are like incredibly tightly controlled groups. I run a literary group. It's 10 people. And there is no way we're going to let anybody follow our conversations. It's a secret group on Facebook. We've set it up as a secret group on Facebook. So it's not like we're trying to grow this group. It's not like we're trying anybody to voyeur into what's happening inside this group. This is a closed group just for coordination and communication within our 10 people, and that's it. So I think my hunch is a team operates like that. A sports team operates exactly like that. They don't want journalists to voyeur into their situations. You may want to validate your assumption there. And in general, what I'm seeing out there is this in social media is this notion of confusing a bunch of voyeurs as friends or as trustworthy entities. And I think that's what needs to be addressed for social media, for the next phase of social media or the next social media unicorn. It's not, it's not having thousands of people putting likes on your post. That is not satisfying. That gives you an ego boost, maybe. That gives you this momentary feeling that, oh, I'm so popular. But in the end, it adds no value. If you're marketing a brand, if you're marketing a product, then that adds value. But that's a different context. In human relationships, that adds no value at all. So I've thought quite a lot about the social media issue. I'm going to start writing on this topic, actually. I don't have time right now, but during the holidays, I hope to have some time to sit down and start to write about some of the observations that I have about what is wrong with social media today. And I think there will be a new social media paradigm emerging because, the first wave of anything is not the best design. It evolves through experience. It evolves through regeneration and so on and so forth. So I will write about this. You may want to follow that writing, but I think your assumptions are not entirely correct here.
I will definitely look for that and look forward to reading those. And yeah, we can get into the validations of it a little bit more. I know we're short on time here, but I appreciate the feedback.
So we can come back to it maybe in a little bit later, but let me take the next presenter first. Thank you.
Perfect,
okay, Maureen, next slide. Okay, Flavia, you're up next from Dublin, Ireland. Let me actually introduce Flavia, iBreve. Flavia is a winner of the 1Mby1M scholarship sponsored by EIT, European Institute of Technology and Innovation, their healthcare arm. And this is a partnership that we've recently struck, and this partnership will be incubating and accelerating over 100 companies, European companies, healthcare IT companies, digital health companies in the program, and Flavia is one of the winners of the program. So first and foremost, congratulations, Flavia.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine. Go ahead.
Perfect. So hello, everybody. Thank you very much for having me. I'm Flavia, the CEO and co-founder of iBreve, an Irish startup. And today I want to share our story with you. So if you could please go to the next slide. We all know how it feels to be stressed. But did you know that the way you breathe strongly influences your stress level? Long, deep belly breaths help you calming down, whereas fast and shallow breaths trigger your fight or flight system. iBreve is a startup that develops a wearable that improves stress resilience by analyzing breathing patterns. Next slide, please. 1 out of 4 adults suffer from stress, which put them at higher risk of hypertension, heart disease, and other stress-related illnesses. Next slide. Multiple studies have shown that controlled breathing can reduce stress very effectively. While this might be quite easy in a setting like a yoga class, many struggle to manage their breathing and stress at work. Next slide. iBreve makes stress management easy. iBreve is a wearable that analyzes breathing patterns in real time and helps you to cope with stress wherever you are. We focused initially on women's health and well-being and designed a discrete wearable that attaches to any bra. iBreve connects to the phone and also works as a standalone device. A machine learning algorithm correlates breathing patterns, activity, and stress level. Next slide. We help you in 3 ways. First, we prevent stress by identifying the patterns leading to stress, like shallow breathing. Second, we effectively treat stress by guiding through clinically proven relaxation exercises. And third, by training with real-time biofeedback and breathing games, iBreve helps to improve your natural stress resilience long-term. Next slide. We see a big trend for breathing exercises in the market, with players like Apple or Fitbit integrating standard exercises. However, wrist-worn devices cannot measure breathing patterns. Thus, iBreve's competitive advantages are the ability to monitor and differentiate between the types of breathing and thus personalize relaxation exercises based on your breathing patterns. Next slide. The iBreve wearable will be available for $129 with a gross profit margin of 70% at mass production. Additionally, we offer a freemium model of the iBreve app, tailoring relaxation exercises to the workplace. Next slide. Based on over 200 interviews, we identified our ideal persona. We call her Eve. Eve knows about the benefits of breathing from her occasional yoga class, but really struggles to bring this calmness from her yoga mat to her office desk. iBreve is here to help her. Next slide. There are 40 million women in Europe and the US just like Eve, creating a target market opportunity of 2.5 billion euros. We start in our niche, women who are health enthusiasts, experience stress in their daily life, and know about the benefits of breathing from their occasional yoga or Pilates class. We approach our market with tailored online messaging towards mindfulness, selling through yoga studios, and partnering with key opinion leaders in the field. Subsequently, we broaden our market by launching iBreve for Men and rolling out to the medical sector. The certification as Medical Device Class 1 allows iBreve to help patients with mental health illnesses like anxiety and depression, and chronic diseases like asthma or even epilepsy. Next slide. So where are we now? To date, we have over 300 unadvertised pre-sign-ups with promising conversion rates of over 3% on Google, and even higher among visitors within the health and fitness category. We tested our prototypes in the lab and also with pilots in the field. So for example, at the Global Yoga Congress, we gave iBreve to 40 yogis and asked them to follow a set sequence of yoga poses. Our machine learning algorithm was able to distinguish between yoga beginners and teachers only by analyzing their breathing curves. iBreve is also partnering with the Boston Children's Hospital on their epilepsy research, as they believe that they can predict seizures with the help of the breathing pattern analysis from our device. This is an important step for iBreve towards the clinical validation and towards trust building. Next slide. So far, we are bootstrapped, and we have an advanced prototype, which we're currently thoroughly testing. And our most important upcoming milestones are the design for manufacturing, a preclinical evaluation to quantify the achieved stress reduction, and the launch of iBreve with a pre-sales marketing campaign in spring next year. Next slide. We are a strong team with experiences from working at Google, machine learning, and psychology. We also partnered with experienced designers and psychologists to combine the user-friendliness of consumer wearables with medical accuracy. Next slide. With this, I invite you all to take at least one deep breath a day and join our vision of a world free of stress-related diseases. Thank you.
Very good. Excellent presentation, Flavia.
Thank you.
There are a number of questions and pointers that I'm going to give you, and since you're a premium member, you can use the curriculum to learn, the things that you need to learn in terms of go-to-market strategy and all the strategic elements in general. So here we go. The first question that comes to my mind, and Maureen, if you could go back to the slide where she has the price points and comparisons against Apple and so forth. What is preventing Apple to do this? Let's say this is a great idea. You're saying it's a very large market, and it all makes sense. And, but it's not an easy go-to-market strategy, right? So as we know from companies like Fitbit and so forth, they have really struggled. Fitbit is struggling. As a company, Fitbit is absolutely struggling. Jawbone has been a death by overfunding, and basically it's a demise situation. So investors are extremely wary of consumer wearables that have to go up against Apple, and for the following reason. Let's say Apple is very expensive, but what is preventing Apple from doing what you're doing? Like, let's say this is an idea that crosses wires. I mean, if you're even remotely successful, Apple will know about it. And in any case, you have to get on Apple, and your app needs to be on the Apple App Store and the Android Store and so on and so forth. Digital health is a very big focus for Apple. So what is preventing Apple from just releasing an accessory that is attached to the bra and does exactly what you are saying you're going to do? I can tell you there is no engineering barrier whatsoever. They will figure it out. So how do you defend yourself?
I think we actually are quite complementary to an Apple Watch, for instance. So the Apple Watch already has the breathing exercises, but they don't have the live feedbacks. It's just like the timer. And if you know, Apple also does the sleep
one. They don't have it now, but what's preventing? This is not good. This is not a static industry, right? What's preventing them from putting this in?
Apple is actually buying. I guess this could be one of the potential exits. For example, Apple just bought Beddit, who does the sleep monitoring way better than the Apple Watch would be able to do it. So actually, I think we would be quite complementary with Apple.
Well, sleep monitoring is not Apple's direct market, but consumer health is Apple's direct market. That's one of the questions. I'm not going to ask you to answer this question right away. We are going to need to think this through. That's question number one that you're going to need to give some very deep thought to, or we're going to have to give some very deep thought to. Question number two that needs a lot of deep thought is, if you're saying one of your primary market penetration strategies, and we need to come up with a primary market penetration strategy right now, because the first order of business to get 10,000 units out there and get you to $1 million company, right? You've got to hit the 1 million mark before you can get to 10 million and 50 billion. So how do we get those 10,000 units out? One of the things you're saying is that you're going to sell through yoga studios. Great. If you have to sell through yoga studios, then yoga studios are small businesses. You're going to have to talk to these yoga studios and convince them to sell your product. That is not a marketing-driven business proposition. That's a sales-driven business proposition. And it's an expensive sales-driven business proposition. What validation do you have? Have you talked to 100 yoga studios, and do you have an understanding of what would it take to sell to 100, 2,000, however many units you expect each yoga studios to push for you? Where is the business plan for that? This is something we're going to have to create. And for that, I would like you to go look in the 1Mby1M curriculum and follow the curriculum to develop the business plan for how do you go to market through the yoga studio market and see if that is viable or not. And there are all sorts of validation modules. There's a whole sales 2.0 module under customer acquisition, which you're going to have to learn so that you can go to market through a third party, basically. So these are some of the questions, and I'd like you to start thinking about these questions and using the curriculum to kind of plug your knowledge gaps, and then use all the upcoming roundtables. You now have access to every single private roundtable because of your premium membership, and you have access to public roundtables. So just let Maureen know when you need time to come talk to me, and use the coaching that you have access to, and let's try to answer these questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. All right, Maureen, can you advance the slides, please? Okay, folks, one request I have for you before I go in and explain to you how to use the 1Mby1M program is bring serious entrepreneurs into the program. If you like what we are doing, please bring serious entrepreneurs into the program. And in terms of resources, your journey begins at 1Mby1M.com. Next slide, please. And there you will find everything, basically. The whole program is run virtually, so you'll find everything there. Next slide. You'll find a terrific blog. Just by following the blog, you'll learn a lot. It's free. The Entrepreneur Journeys book series is available all on Amazon. If you're a premium member, you can download all the books from the premium curriculum for free. But all the books are available online on Amazon. Next slide, please. There are 12 volumes of books that double-click down on specific topics. So it could be bootstrapping with a paycheck. It could be bootstrapping using services. It could be billion-dollar unicorns. It could be Web 3.0 and e-commerce. Whatever, you can find case study-based volumes of books through which you can advance your knowledge on that particular topic. Next slide. These roundtables happen every week, and you are very welcome to keep coming back to them. It's a great way to immerse yourself and keep learning on a regular basis. Next slide. Our full acceleration program is 1M1M Premium, and this is what Flavia is part of now, and you're very welcome to join the program. We offer you extensive methodology guidance. We rapidly help you plug all the knowledge gaps that you're going to encounter in navigating your journey. There's an online curriculum that addresses a lot of the things that you need to learn. We have strategy consulting in private roundtables similar to what you went through today. So the combination of the curriculum where you learn methodology and the private roundtables where you get the coaching or consulting, whatever you call it, is how we help you plug your knowledge gaps and build your strategy. We do have a fantastic network. It's one of the most powerful networks in the startup ecosystem, and you have access to it if you're a premium member. That's how we help you with business development. And we help you with financing, with the caveat that just because you're a member, you don't get introduced to investors. You have to become fundable, and we'll work with you. We'll help you in that process, but your business will have to be worthy of being introduced to investors at the right stage, to the right investors, and that's how we operate the financing part of the business. And then we have a lot of clout in the media, so we can get the word out there of how you're going to get some PR, get some recognition, get some buzz going. Next slide, please. There is a 1Mby1M self-assessment that is available for free on the website. It is a questionnaire. It is a very, very accurate and effective set of questions that investors will inevitably ask you. And our take is that you are the first and most important investor in your venture. You should ask yourself these questions. And if you get stuck anywhere in the methodology portion of this, next slide, please, you can go to 1M1M Basic, which is our curriculum-only option, just $99 a month, and start studying. This is a video lectures and case study-based curriculum, online curriculum. You can access it from anywhere in the world at any time, and just start plugging your knowledge gaps. Next slide, please. There's a ton of material on the website. You have questions, your FAQs are all answered there through text as well as video FAQs. So dig around in the website. If you could just flip through the next few slides, Maureen. Dig around in the website, what to expect from the premium program, what to expect from the basic program, video FAQs. All of this is available. So spend some time on the website and you will know whether this program is for you or not. It is not for everybody. This program is not for everybody. There's a lot of self-study involved. We give you a framework, we give you resources, we give you guidance, but you have to put in your work. It's like a gym membership. You can buy a gym membership. That's not going to help you get in shape. You're going to have to do the work. It's the exact same way with 1Mby1M. You have to do the work. Our methodology is lean, capital-efficient, bootstrap startups. Our philosophy is bootstrap first, raise money later. Why? Because that's what investors are looking for. Investors are looking for, more advanced stage startups for the most part. The people who invest in concept stage startups are few and far between, if none almost. So especially for a first-time entrepreneur. It's very, very difficult. Upcoming free roundtables, we have one on the 14th, one on the 20th, two more before Thanksgiving, and then one in December. I am actually traveling for a part of the time from Thanksgiving on to mid-December, which is why we don't have a lot of roundtables in December. And then we also have in-person rendezvous, two more left this year, one on November 20th, and the other on December 19th. Maureen, I think November 20th is a Tuesday, not Wednesday, by the way, just to point out. And that rendezvous is at 6:30 p.m., not 5 p.m., which is our usual time. So please make a note. The rendezvous schedule is on the website. You can register. Please do register. And you can come if you're local or if you're visiting from somewhere and you're coming into Silicon Valley, work that into your plan. It's a great opportunities to sit down and talk and meet people and so on and so forth. We had one last night. It was wonderful. It's at Cafe Boroni, which is an institution in Menlo Park, it's very close to Sand Hill Road, very close to Stanford University. So come to one of these rendezvous. From January onwards, again, we're going to resume more regular rendezvous. But we've had regular rendezvous all through the fall. We're getting into the holidays soon, so it's going to reduce in frequency. But in general, throughout the year, we have very regular rendezvous. Okay, so that's it. We are ready for Q&A. If you have questions, you can type them in public chat, or you can dial in and ask your questions. Maureen, if you could advance the slides in the meantime. I will introduce you to Irina Patterson, Irina at 1Mby1M.com. You can contact her with any questions about the program. She's very patient and very knowledgeable about the program, and she'll be able to help you to gauge whether it's for you or not, any other kinds of questions. She has all the answers, basically. Next slide, please. And that is pretty much it. So we have 5 minutes left for Q&A, and then we are adjourning the session. Any questions? Questions, comments, introductions, feedback, whatever.
If I may, I don't know if you can still hear me. I think that
we can hear you fine. Go ahead.
I think that the program, the points that you made, the program, everything was exceptionally well done. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm glad you find it helpful. One thing that I have learned in doing this for now a very long time, as I said, we're doing these roundtables for more than 10 years. My job is to ask you the right questions so that you can think about them. And my job is not to give you a pat on the back and tell you you're doing great. Anybody can do you. Your wife can do you. Your husband can do you. Your children can do you. Your parents can do you. That's not my job. My job is to make you aware of what are the risks in your business, where are the holes in your strategy. And that's not with any malice whatsoever. It's completely constructive, completely with the intent of helping you answer those questions. Should you choose to work with us or any other way, whatever way, these are the questions that you have to answer. And asking the right questions is really a very big part of the problem. And then you can find the solutions. If you don't even know what are the right questions about your business, there's no chance that you're going to be able to answer them. And then the investors are going to ask you those questions and you're going to fall flat. That's not useful. This is a safe place where I can ask you the questions, you can prepare, you can think about it, you can come back and talk to me and so forth. That is the philosophy of the program. Okay? All right, so folks, I'm going to adjourn the session. I hope to see you soon, next week, and we'll continue working. We'll continue working on your businesses. Bring your friends as if they need help, and we'll just continue making progress as a community. We now have a community of over 500,000 people, around 1Mby1M. That includes, of course, lots of entrepreneurs, lots of people in large companies who work with entrepreneurs, are interested in working with entrepreneurs strategically, partnership-wise, channel-wise. We have lots of investors. If you go to the seed capital portion of the blog, you'll see interview after interview with investors, just like you heard Nihal Mehta today. We bring investors to you all the time so that you can understand how investors think. You don't have to take it from me. You should hear it from the horse's mouth. Okay? So that's the ethos of the program. If you like it, keep coming back, and if you want to go deeper, join the program, and we'll work with you. Thank you very much. Bye, everybody.